Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Randy Cook, and today I'm bringing you a special bonus mini episode of Prescription for Success, created especially for the week of March 30, 2020, which just happens to be National Doctors' Day in the United States. Well, I did a little research, and I found out that the first celebration of Doctors' Day took place in the tiny community of Winder, Georgia, on March 28, 1933. And that original celebration was a strictly local event to honor local physicians, both living and deceased, and especially the late Dr. Crawford W. Long, whose gravesite is near Winder. So, a little digression here. Dr. Crawford Long was a surgeon and a pharmacist who grew up in Madison County in northeastern Georgia. He earned his MD degree from the University of Pennsylvania, and after an 18-month internship in New York, he returned to Georgia in 1841 to start his medical practice in the town of Jefferson, which is not far from where he grew up. In 1842, Dr. Long administered the first general anesthesia for surgery using diethyl ether, but unfortunately for him, he didn't publish his experience until 1849, after he had accumulated a series of several cases. It was at that point that he discovered that another surgeon, Dr. William T.G. Morton, had demonstrated the use of ether as an anesthetic to an audience at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Morton had published his experience in December of 1846, so even though Long was the first to use ether, he never really got the recognition for it because he was late to publish. In spite of that, he was much revered across the state of Georgia, and especially in those counties where he practiced. So now let's get back to Doctors' Day. The original event was put together back in 1933 by Mrs. Eudora Brown Almond, who was the wife of a physician in Winder, Georgia. She wanted to do something to honor the physicians in the community, so among other things, thank you cards were mailed to the local physicians and their wives, and flowers were placed on the graves of the deceased physicians, including Dr. Crawford Long. And finally, there was an elaborate formal dinner in the home of Dr. and Mrs. William T. Randolph on March 28th. Well, the event was so successful that Mrs. Eudora Brown, who was the chief organizer, rallied the community of Winder and the surrounding counties to get the attention of the Women's Alliance of the Southern Medical Association in 1935. And as a result, commemoration of Doctors' Day started to spread across the South. And then finally, on October 30, 1990, 55 years after that original event, the 101st Congress of the United States enacted a joint resolution proclaiming March 30 as National Doctors' Day in the United States. The date is significant because March 30 is the anniversary of the day that Dr. Crawford Long administered that first general anesthetic in surgery. But that's not quite the end of the story. Just a few years ago, Dr. Marion Mass, who has been a guest on this podcast along with Dr. Kimberly Jackson and Dr. Christina Lang, applied to have Physicians' Day expanded to Physicians' Week, and their request was approved in 2017. How appropriate it is, I think, that a campaign that was started nearly a century ago by a group of physician wives was ultimately completed by a group of female physicians. So, especially in view of the challenges that our healthcare providers are facing today in the midst of this frightening pandemic, all of us at Prescription for Success, including Jody Hanks, our audio engineer, Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO of MD Coaches, and of course myself, we all wanted to remember our physician colleagues during their special week and to say thank you for all that you do, and please know that our nation is grateful for your service. I'm Dr. Randy Cook, and this has been a special bonus episode of Prescription for Success. Remember, you can find our show notes at rxforsuccesspodcast.com, and while you're there, please support us by becoming a patron at patreon.com/ RX for Success podcast. And as always, don't forget to fill your prescription for success with my next episode.